Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have got a couple of really important Kentucky political news stories that we're going to cover in News of the Week. Some kind of updates to the political races that we're looking at for the midterms. Some important issues that are hitting campuses across the Commonwealth. And then we got two awesome guests this week. So first will be joining us is Carma Bell Marshall, trans activist who's been all over the news recently, from the Frankfort Capitol bathroom brewhaha to a wonderful speaking role at last weekend's No Kings rally here in Lexington. Going to hear from Carma about what her work looks like as a advocate for trans rights at a time when Republicans just can't stop talking about trans issues. They've really got it in the brain. And then we're going to check in with former Representative Cherlynn Stevenson from Lexington, Scott County's 88th district. We're going to be hearing about her potential plans for 2026 now that the 6th district is open, which I guess is a spoiler for one of our first stories this week. So really should be a great show. Thrilled that you've joined us. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy week to get a bit of Kentucky news with a progressive view. But before we jump into those stories, I want to make sure that you're ready to pitch in and help out, right? It's clear we're going to need long-term power building to create better policies and better political outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign to make that happen. You can join us in the streets. We've been doing protests every other week, seemingly, for quite some time. We need folks showing that clear opposition to what's happening, the kind of just bananas stuff happening in Washington, D.C. from the Trump administration. So that's a great way to help out. Just show up and show your support. But also, if you are, you've got resources you can support us with, love to have a donation. You can make a contribution right now via our secure online website, Act Blue, to help turn Kentucky purple. $10, $20, $200. It all adds up. And we're grateful for all of it, none of which is tax deductible. So just so you know, as taxes are on the mind these days. Anyway, so now let's check in with our co-host. Let me know who you are, where you are. What are you protesting today? You there on the internet. Feel free to share what you're protesting. There's just so many things you could pick from right now. Put that in the comments and we can share it on the screen. So I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Lexington. My sign says Happy Earth Day. Kentucky's GOP pollutes our water. That's a little late for Earth Day. It was yesterday. I like to celebrate all week, though. That's me, Dr. Clardy, are you there?
Yes, I am, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing
broadcasting
great.
Live from Murray, Kentucky. And my sign says, I stand with Al Gore. Of course, Al Gore was my former senator when I lived in Tennessee. He was our collective vice president of the United States for 8 years and our nominee for the presidency in the very questionably decided election of 2000. He gave a speech not too long ago, which he equated the policies of this administration with taking us toward a fascistic, autocratic road. And he is not wrong. He's calling it out. Al Gore has always done that. And I think his is a voice that we need to listen to in these perilous times.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But for the Supreme Court, we would have been further down the road of dealing with climate change. Obviously, he was a leader that took that very seriously. And now we've got somebody in the White House that, again, keeping in that Earth Day theme, who somebody is doing everything in their power to roll back all the investments that have been made for clean energy, doing everything in his power to do more drilling, more oil drilling wherever the oil companies want to. I guess that $1 billion that he extorted them from, they must have shown up with that money because he's doing their bidding for sure. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more time to deal with the climate crisis, because it's real, it's happening, and our communities are getting hit by historic flooding. So I was earlier today, I took a moment and went to the Buffalo Trace Distillery and just up the road here, and they had 15 feet of flooding. They have never had that kind of flooding before. They've been in that location historically a long amount of time, and this is the first time they've ever experienced it. So, the climate crisis is real. We need to be in it, and meanwhile, we're going backwards right now. It's just nuts.
And I had a big tree branch hit my house in the early part of the month. Why I wasn't here last month. Now, it could have been far, far worse, but in Western Kentucky, we are the new tornado alley. Goes all the way back to the horrors of December 2021. Well, those are now exacerbating on a major scale. And I'm sad to say that it's going to happen again.
Yeah, no, for sure. My sign's a little Earth month theory, and then we've got Annabel, who just wants to make sure everyone knows J.D. Vance killed the Pope. Thank you, Annabel, for sharing yours. All right, and then Dr. Clardy, I think for news of the week, I think I'm going to turn to you for the first story, a real personal one that you've interacted with directly. So tell us about it.
Yeah, yesterday, Murray State students and faculty held a protest on campus in the free speech zone to protest the fact that one of our fellow students had gotten their international visa revoked. We do not know to this day who the student is. We do not know their rank, their gender, how they identify. We don't know where they are from. All we know is that they have lost their international visa and cannot finish their education. This is coming down from Washington, D.C., and there's a lot that we do not know. Now, for the administration is probably not going to release this information because of our commitments to the Federal Education Privacy Act, FERPA, but there's a lot of anxiety in the air. And I wanted to come to the rally. I came about 1:30. I had a thesis defense yesterday. And I wanted to come to the rally to speak to students and to speak to faculty who are very anxious and very afraid today. Nobody knows who's on this list to lose their visas and being asked to leave the United States. And this is because of federal policy and the whims of one man who's begun this roundup. And we're going into the last week of classes next week. We're going into finals. Students are defending theses and final projects. Students are going into final examinations. That is stressful alone. Trust me when I tell you that. It's stressful for them. It's stressful for us. And to have this added layer of anxiety is something that we did not need, something we did not want. And we held a rally yesterday to allay some certain fears. And as I said to the very small crowd yesterday, Murray State University has always been historically our window to the larger world. We welcome students and faculty and staff from every corner of the world, and the world opens its doors to us through study abroad, our Regensburg programs, our Keys programs. We have people going abroad every year. And for this to happen at this moment, it presents some real challenges for us. And there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of low morale. There's a lot of hurt that's being felt right now. And, I'm an alumnus of Murray State University. I graduated with my master's there in 1991. I love the institution. I've been there for almost 20 years. And my colleagues, my students are being affected by this. And as I told them yesterday, I come from a tradition that says that darkness does not last always, that there's always going to be light and that right is going to win. But my question is, how much damage is going to be done by this administration in Washington before that great day comes when justice prevails? And so we're in a very sad place right now. We're in a very anxious place right now. And I don't know where it's going to land. I have no idea. And I wish I did. I wish I had a crystal ball.
I guess it can be, whistling past the graveyard, whatever, and say, oh, we'll be fine. But who knows, right? We just really don't know. And I will say, victim of my last podcast, I was listening to Ezra Klein, who had a guest on and wrote a book about the kind of, our illiberal past. So the U.S. has not always been the shining city on the hill in terms of
Far
our
from
democracy,
it.
right? Obviously, racist internment during World War II. There's a long list. The KKK riding through streets. Obviously, Jim Crow. There have been moments where the rule of law has been absolutely disregarded. And so, but we are in my lifetime in a fairly unprecedented time. And I do think the attack on academic freedom is real. It is frightening, and where that kind of intersects with international, this kind of like retreat instinct that the federal leadership has right now, whether it's like a gross negligence at the Secretary of State or Department of Defense. It does seem like they're not looking to be usefully interacting with the world. They're looking to kind of pull up the drawbridge, right? And I think the international students, that's a very clear sign that they don't, they want to get in the way of what university has always done, which is that free exchange of ideas, and using their federal resources as a point of leverage and as a cudgel to get what they want, which is just so disappointing. So just again, not in keeping with our best instincts as a nation. So gross.
And Aaron, it's even worse than that. Just moments ago, President Trump signed an executive order basically hamstringing accreditation and accreditation agencies and changing the way in which regional and state accreditation and professional accreditation agencies carry out their work, those that receive federal funding. That's one. Several weeks ago, we found out that they are cutting out, the administration is wanting to cut federal funding for the National Endowment of the Humanities, the National Endowment of the Arts, thereby hamstringing organizations like Kentucky Humanities, like PBS, like NPR. It's so strange to me how autocratic regimes come for the intellectuals first and come for cultural institutions first. And so we're in a very dark moment right now. And we need all hands on deck to try to prevent it. I don't know how, but we're going to have to at some point.
We have to, the way you prevent it, and we had a great conversation last week with Louis Knupp, who was with 5051. Folks should check that one out. I think the way you say no is by saying no, right? And, yes, they have a lot of leverage right now. They have a lot of power. They have a, trifecta in our government, especially when you factor in the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court has shown some willingness to say no to them, right? And they're not going to allow them to kind of use extra legal methods to get rid of and disappear people completely, right? So that's the first step is, we've got some backstop at the court at a level, but we need to be in the streets. We need to be showing very clearly that we, the people, are saying no, and get to that, 3.5% of the population you need to really reject authoritarian takeovers. So these events need to keep building, and they need to get bigger, and they need to get louder, and we need to be more disruptive. I don't think, we don't need to be violent. We don't need to be damaging. We need to be in the middle's face, right? So the folks who are on the far right, we're not going to get them. They're all in. They're MAGA. Then there's the folks on the far left, and that's us. Sorry to say, like, here we are. But there's that third in the middle that just need to be confronted with what's happening. And they didn't sign up for no rule of law. They didn't sign up for getting rid of due process to disappear people that have the just shakiest, investigations of their, of their story, right? So, it's not that they're just sending dangerous, criminals out of our country, right? The little bit they've been able to scratch the surface of who they're sending to these gulags, foreign gulags. They're not sending the worst. They're sending some people who are just people trying to get by and didn't do horrible things while they were here. And are just trying to live their lives. So yeah, I think we got to tell that story. We can't let them off the hook. We got to keep making and confronting them with the horrors that they're doing to what we expect from our nation, and that kind of that clear history of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? All these great things that we believe our country stands for. So yeah, I think you're great to see Murray State standing up for their international students and, telling that story. Because again, it's going to require all of us telling as many of these stories as possible.
Aaron, let me just throw this out here. When I was taught in Chicago, when I shared this story yesterday, one of the lowest moments that I have ever had as an educator. This is back 24 years ago, right after 9/11 had happened. I was packing up to go home. It was on a Friday night. I had bought a lemon, honestly, and that lemon kept me taking public transportation. Another story altogether. Anyway, I had 3 Arab Muslim students. They were all women, and they approached me. They came to my office as I was leaving, and they asked me would I walk with them to the bus stop, because their lives had been threatened. Well, I was on my way there, and I said, listen, I'll wait with you until your number bus comes and everything. Don't be afraid. I got you. But when I got on the bus and I thought about that, I said, no student should ever have to be treated like that or be afraid like that because of what 19 people had done that had no relation to them. The scapegoating started then, and it is worse now than it was during 9/11. And I don't know where this is going to land. I have no idea.
Yeah, it is. The scapegoating's bad. That's actually a really good. That's a good jumping off point. So we for our next story, we want to make sure everyone knows Garland Barr. I think it's Garland Barr the third. It might be the fourth. You might not know who I'm talking about, but we're gonna right here on this show. We are gonna normalize calling Andy Barr by his real name. Garland Barr the third, perhaps the fourth, has made it official. It is official with his launch video that he released yesterday. He hates liberals. That's, I think, what he's made it official. It is what can only be described by me as a disgusting display of culture warfare. Garland Andy Barr dropped his launch video this week, making it clear that he sees his road to Mitch's Senate seat as like through full tilt MAGA country, right? He is going to out MAGA Daniel Cameron, who's already in the race. Daniel Cameron, of course, who, lost running statewide against the real Andy. And so, people are saying, oh, well, he can't win statewide in Kentucky. But, I think what is most clear, right? He's in this launch video, he's anti-trans. He's got some racist dog whistles, I think, in terms of Black Lives Matter protest, being featured very prominently, talking about how liberals are literally trying to eviscerate this country. It's really gross. It's really, kind of not what I expected from him necessarily, except for if you look at just his political story. And, he's always been somebody who, has been pretty blah in DC. He's mostly there to support big banks and do what they wanted, ignore his constituents by and large. And, he hasn't really been a huge culture warrior, but now that he's looking to win statewide and win in that GOP primary statewide, he is doing everything in his power to remind folks that he is anti-trans and he's standing up for, for women's sports. Just all this kind of gross stuff that doesn't make any sense at all when you talk to him as a kind of general human. But, clearly he's decided that politically it makes the most sense for him to go in that direction. So that is what's happening at the Senate seat. Obviously, we've got one announced Democratic candidate. Representative Colonel Pam Stevenson is running. And then again, Daniel Cameron is running now against Garland Barr. But what that really does, and I'm, a bit of a home team guy here, really interested in what it does to the 6th district race. So I hope you'll forgive me, Dr. Clardy, as we talk a lot about, my chances of getting better representation in Washington, D.C. here in Lexington, right? So I think it's 19 counties. Lexington's obviously the biggest. It's like about half or so of the vote. But the rest of it's all kind of rural and conservative. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. This is one that, we've got Ryan Dotson, Representative Ryan Dotson, again, one of these, a state lawmaker, but he is also a reverend because they really love to elect reverends in the state house in Frankfort. So he's one of the several Republicans reportedly considering a run. That includes State Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe. I think people are pretty serious. She's seriously considering the race. And then another couple of folks who I don't really even never even really heard of. And we've covered the state legislature pretty closely, but State Rep Deanna Gordon from Richmond, State Rep Matt Lockett from Nicholasville, former state senator GOP leader Damon Thayer, of course we've heard of him, and then at the other side, the list in the Herald Leader includes Representative Cherlynn Stevenson. We'll ask her about that later. Later this show. Rocky Atkins is in that list. Former House Leader, current senior advisor to Andy Beshear, Rocky Atkins. Democratic Party Executive Director Morgan Eves, and Kentucky Democratic Party Chair Coleman Eldridge. So I wonder if those interesting conversations around the water cooler at the KDP offices, I guess, if both the executive director and the chair are eyeing the seat. But, I don't know if they really are, what's been shared in the news. So, but yeah, I think it's it's because of the timing, right? We're in this midterm where clearly Trump is, there's a very fired up opposition to what Trump is doing in DC. I think that's, obviously at midterms, there's usually blowback against, the ruling party. So I think this will be blowback on steroids for this district. I expect that because the DNC or DCCC has targeted this race, the Republicans are going to put more time and energy into it as well and try to fire it up and make sure that their voters know what's at stake here. Right. But it really is because it's an open seat in a midterm. I think this is the best shot that Democrats have of taking the 6th district. And I am hoping I hope all those names run, and we have a really competitive primary on both sides. And it's, the best candidate wins, right? And that we get a lot more attention at the race so that folks continue to stay engaged and we do have good turnout. That's what I feel for.
Well, maybe I'm confused. Didn't Ben Chandler barely lose to him several years ago, and didn't Ben Chandler barely lose to him back 7 years ago?
It was, the district looked a lot different. I think there was Ben Chandler when he lost. First Andy Barr barely lost to Ben Chandler, and then Ben Chandler did lose to Andy, but then when Amy ran, and again, the first Trump midterm in 2018, the district looked a little bit different. She was obviously an incredibly successful fundraiser, right? So she was able to spend money in ways that no one, I think more than Ben was able to spend, right? And so that was a 3-point race. And then they have taken Franklin County out. And so that makes it a little bit less competitive, maybe. But then also, the power of incumbency is real. And so I think Andy Barr's, Garland Barr has done a good job of, having enough money. And we haven't really seen a really well-funded candidate since Amy, right? And there's been weird elections. There was a COVID election. I think Josh Hicks was a great candidate, but it was during COVID, so that was weird. He couldn't really do what he was good at doing, which is getting out in the public and kind of pressing the flesh. So I don't know. It's exciting to have an open race. It's exciting, to have a competitive race. I think it will be. And if I squint and if things go well, I think, I could have a representative that I'm proud of in DC, which would be exciting.
I wish we did. I tell you, oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. You're in Homer's district, right? That's where you are.
Unfortunately.
That super weird district that goes from Franklin County.
I hate redistricting. I really do. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to pick this story up a little bit later tonight with the show, but I'm really excited now to turn to our first guest, who I had the pleasure of meeting this weekend at the No Kings rally, Carma Bell Marshall, who has been, like I said at the intro of the show, really in the middle of a lot of stuff, a lot of media attention, a lot of stories. I don't know that Carma's sought them all out, but I had a great chance to chat with her this week, and she was gracious enough to agree to come on the show. Carma, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. I am at a conference in Texas. I'm enjoying myself. I'm going to a bunch of lovely sessions on how to better organize and bring unity to our community, and finding resources that I can help possibly bring back to Kentucky. I am doing really well.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. So I've got a couple questions for you. Number one, is Representative Reverend Bill Wesley as much of a jerk as he comes off as?
Mm-hmm. I would say, and I mean this in the most polite way. He's just ignorant. He just doesn't know, and that's okay. People don't know stuff all the time, and I think it's incumbent on those of us who don't know to seek out information and become better knowledgeable in subjects that we don't understand.
All right. So if people don't know, right, and we covered this like 2 weeks ago when we had Olivia Krauth on the show, who kind of covered that story. Can you tell us from kind of your perspective, kind of what happened? What am I referring to right now?
Yes. So there was a Trans Joy rally that was held at the Capitol. I am the co-chair for the Trans Wellness Coalition. I'm also a previous candidate for the House of Representatives for District 31. So they had requested that I come and give a speech at the rally. They were also looking for some entertainers and performers to possibly, just bring some joy to the crowd and pump everyone up. And they knew that I had that history. So they asked me if I would mind showing up in drag for the community. And I was like, sure, why not? I'm here all down for a good time and spreading joy, because joy is how we defeat a lot of this hate that's going around. I happened to step into the restroom to correct my eyelashes. So I didn't even make it into the full bathroom, because if anybody's been to the Capitol, they know that there is like a section with a row of mirrors and a bench for the females, so that we can just sit, take care of things that we need to take care of without even going into the stall area. So I just fixed my eyelashes. I turned to my right to go out the door. I saw a Capitol police officer who was peeking through the door trying to see who was in there, and he motioned to come here. I step out, and it wasn't one Capitol police officer, it was 6, with Bill Wesley sitting in the center of those Capitol police officers. The Capitol police officers didn't say anything to me, and this is no shade to them, because I know they probably have a hard job. But what could they say? I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't do anything wrong. So they were basically following his directive, and he just started spouting off at the mouth. He referred to me as a male. He told me that I had no place to be in the female's bathroom. He said that I shouldn't be using the event that day as a way to pull the wool over people's eyes, so to speak, and lie to the people and gain access to the female bathrooms, because that's not where I belong. He then told me I wasn't allowed to use any facilities on the Capitol grounds, and that if I needed to use the restroom, I needed to go somewhere else.
Did you ask him if he were related to Bull Connor?
I did not ask him if he was related to Bull Connor. That's a good one. I should have. I told him, I kept reiterating, I am a female. Whether he likes it or not, I am a female. I am a woman. I will be using that bathroom. There is no laws that prohibit me from using said bathrooms. And I did nothing wrong. So his hostility, his anger was misplaced and unfounded. I've been telling people that he's been misrepresenting me. He's been misrepresenting himself. He's misrepresenting the law. He's just being a misrepresentative.
A misrepresentative. Yeah, that's definitely more appropriate. The Reverend Misrepresentative Bill Wesley. He sounds like a jerk. I'm just going to say it. I think
no. He was not pleasant. But I have put out there that if he does wish to learn more about trans and gender nonconforming people, I'm more than happy to sit down with him and have an amicable conversation that isn't rooted in hostility and anger. Because I do believe in educating people.
Yeah, and you won't need 6 Capitol Police officers to come along with you for that.
Oh no, not at all. We could do that just me and him. It's fine. It's fine.
Awesome. And I know, Dr. Clardy, you have a question.
Well, first of all, he was a minister, right? Well, I'm a licensed minister in the Episcopal Church, and I apologize for those jerks who call themselves A, Christians, and B, call themselves ministers. And at St. John's Episcopal Church, we say God loves you, no exceptions. Mm-hmm. So just know not all of us are jerks. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now here's my question to you. You spoke at Lexington's No Kings rally and march. What did you want the crowd to take away from the remarks that you made?
I wanted them to take hope away from this. I wanted them to feel empowered. What I want people to remember is we have been here before. Our community has been under attack forever. Go back in history, you can find moments in history time and time again where our community has been attacked, has been targeted, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So we need to galvanize in the fact that we have elders, we have our ancestors who have experienced this, who made it through this, and we will make it through it now. We may be in some dark days, but there are brighter days ahead, and we just need to hold on to that hope. Also let them know that there are resources, there is community. You are not isolated out there. A lot of us in the gender nonconforming and trans community, we live very solitary lives, especially in Kentucky. Our community is very fractured. It's very marginalized. You don't see a lot of our organizations and groups with a lot of working between one another, which my organization, the Trans Wellness Coalition, is working to address, where we try to get communication between several different organizations so that we all move together in one accord. Because when we move together, we're stronger together. So that's what I wanted them to take away. I wanted them to take away a sense of, at the end of all of this, the 4 years, we will be okay. It may take a while for us to get some of the things that have happened back, but it's coming. So just hold on.
Being a prisoner of hope.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that for our viewers. It just seems like as I'm watching, this kind of political landscape where these kind of folks are choosing to run for office, Garland, Barr, Daniel Cameron cannot seem to get past trans issues as they seek the GOP nomination for Mitch's Senate seat. Do you enjoy living rent-free in their heads, or is it a dark, scary place where angels fear to tread?
Well, I would love to live rent-free. I mean, housing insecurity is a thing.
Right.
But without, being jovial about it, it's the one trick they have. They believe that they can fool Kentuckians into believing that this small percentage of the population is the root of all their problems, all their woes, everything that's happening. And the average Kentuckians, they are wising up to this. Trans people aren't affecting your groceries. Trans people aren't affecting your VA benefits. Trans people aren't affecting your gas prices. So the fact that they keep saying trans this, trans that, trans ain't doing nothing but trying to live the exact same lives that a normal Kentuckian is trying to live. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to eat, get to work, and keep a roof over my head like everybody else. So I don't understand why he's trying to make us the problem, other than there are people who just don't know us. Because we are so small, because we are so marginalized, the ability for an average Kentuckian to be interacting with a trans person is probably very small. So it's easy for them to strip us of our humanity, strip us of our personality, strip us of what makes us Kentuckians or Americans, which makes us easy targets. And I'm hoping by being more open with myself and putting myself out there that I can help demystify my community some, right? Because we need people in our community to step up and be loud.
But sister, let me let you on a little secret here. That's what bigots do best. They target people so that while they're saying those folk over there are the reason you're in your spot, meanwhile, they're picking those same people's pockets and getting those folks to vote against their best self-interest. It is the same story of the sacrificial lamb. It's just y'all's turn at it now. But guess what? You're going to be all right.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Right. And not to get biblical, but I have chosen family. I have a mommy and a poppy. Both of them are religious leaders. They both are heads of a church, and they pray for me. So I know.
There you go.
I know I'm taken care of. I'm not worried.
You good.
I hope that the powers that be can forgive those who trespass against me, because they got something coming.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Carma Bell Marshall. This is a question I'm asking all of my guests. Are you going to run for office again?
I am planning to run for office again.
Oh, awesome.
When I'm not, I haven't nailed that down yet. I don't know if it's going to be this cycle or next cycle, because there's some things that we still got to work out. And I am very committed to my community, and I don't want to leave them at this moment because there is a lot of shifting parts in our community. But I do plan on getting myself back out there and in that race because I feel I did really good my first time.
Awesome. And then what's the name of the organization again? We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes.
It's the Transgender Wellness Coalition, or TWC for short. We also have a Facebook page, Transgender Wellness Coalition, on Facebook.
Awesome. Annabelle's hunting that down right now so we can add it into the comments and add it in the show notes. Awesome. So, yeah, anything else you want to share with our viewers?
I would put this more towards my those of the people in the community who call themselves allies, because I even brought this up in other situations because we passed up Trans Day of Visibility, which was March 31st. I'm visible. I can't walk into space and not be seen. Like, that doesn't have to go without being said,
Right.
or can go without being said. However, to my allies, to my supporters, or supporters of just our community in general, allyship or being an ally, that's a verb. You need to get out and do something, because us in our community, we need your voice. We need your power. We need your support. If you can't call your representative, send them a letter, show up in them rooms to argue and debate with them, if you can't get up to vote, reach out to somebody because they'll help you. Or if you can't even do that, find an organization and just support that organization, because somebody is going to be able to use that and help push us forward and keep us from being the target that we are right now. So to my allies, get to work. We're working. We need you working with us.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You're calling them out, calling them in, whatever. You're just like,
yes, I'm calling you in, honey. Come on.
Awesome. Thanks again, Carma Bell Marshall. Very glad to hear your perspective, and let's stay in touch.
Alrighty, we'll do.
All right. So now, really excited to have with us Cherlynn Stevenson, who folks are probably familiar with because she's been on the show more than about anyone besides me, I think. I don't know. But we of course have endorsed Cherlynn in the last race. She was the representative for the 88th district. We knew it was going to be a really tough fight with Trump at the top of the ticket. And unfortunately it was, and it didn't go the way we wanted it to. And I will kick myself forever for not doing a couple more days in the 88th district of knocking on doors and talking about how Cherlynn was the candidate who was fighting Amendment 2 and was fighting for all the good things we want to see done in Frankfort, which of course the GOP supermajority won't do. So at any rate, Cherlynn Stevenson, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey guys, how are you?
How are you?
I know.
We're just doing what we can, right?
Yeah, I hear you. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure to chat with you. So we had Carma Bell was at the No Kings rally on Saturday. You were at the Hands Off rally 2 weeks back. You were the MC. You did an amazing job. Thank you for being the MC for that event. But it's like, because I had talked to you and I knew that, like, yeah, Cherlynn would be a great MC. She's not doing anything right now. But maybe that's not the truth. I don't know. What was your take of the Hands Off rally? How do you think that went?
No, I thought it was amazing. I was so glad to see so many people show up. I don't know if you all happen to remember, but we were experiencing some really bad weather that weekend, and that was the weekend of a lot of the flooding. And so the weather forecast looked like it was just going to rain down sheets on us, and the heavens opened up, and we had no rain at all during that rally. So it was amazing. But the fact that we had so many people come out expecting rain and expecting to get drenched, I think it just goes to show you the level of frustration that people are having right now. And, people are frustrated, they're angry. And I think it's so important that we give space to those people to come and have an outlet for that, but also to learn how they can take that anger and turn it into action.
No, absolutely. And I think we're getting, kind of doing more and more of that. I think the, Hands Off rally was fantastic. I think the No Kings rally. Similarly, much better weather for that one. And we got another one coming up, May Day Strong. So on Thursday, May 1st, there will be a number of them happening across the state. But I know for sure Northern Kentucky, Louisville, and then in Lexington, it's the same group of groups that organized for those past two in Lexington. So I hope folks put that on your calendar. May Day Strong, with a focus on we want a government that's for workers, not for billionaires, right?
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of that, is actually why I was not at the No Kings rally. I went over the river into Indiana, where Teamsters are on strike right now at Caesars. So took some time to go up there, take some water, take some snacks, spend some time with them on the picket line to let them know that their Kentucky brothers and sisters are supporting their efforts. So I thought, it was a hard choice, but I ended up going to march with them for a little bit too. So, but we'll see.
That's awesome. And we were talking a bunch of labor groups right now, making sure that we can feature some of their stories and their voices for that event. But yeah, it's I tell you what, it is like, I know it's not, stopping the Trump administration in its tracks, but it is so empowering to be in those communities. So if you've not made it out to one of the rallies, you need to go, because it is like recharging to be with people who are, see the same challenges right now and are fired up to do something about it, doing what we can. Absolutely love it. So I don't know if you saw the news earlier. But Garland Barr is now officially running for the Senate. Apparently, he got enough of a wink from Trump that he felt good enough that he could be in competition for the endorsement that he's been clearly prostrating himself trying to get. But I saw an article that mentioned some other people that might be running for that seat. I wanted to see, and two of them you're familiar with, because I think you served in Frankfort with them. So Representative Ryan Dodson is officially in. Amanda Mays Bledsoe has been mentioned. I didn't see anything on her Facebook page if she's like officially considering it or not.
I don't know. I've heard her name out there a lot, but not sure where she stands.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew, where they stood on some key issues. It's Earth Week, so SB 89, which is the bill that did weaken water protections in our Commonwealth. Bledsoe voted for it. Dodson voted for it. Voted to override the governor's veto. How would you vote on SB 89?
Of course, I would have voted no. Water is one of our most precious natural resources, and it sustains all life. We have to have clean water. And, that is just such a basic tenet that I thought everyone would understand. So really disappointing legislation coming out of Frankfort yet again. And not surprising that yet again it was passed by, basically a straight party line.
Yeah. HB4, this got a lot of attention. This was outlawing DEI. This is something that Bledsoe voted for it. Dodson voted for it, voted to override the governor's veto. And now HB4 is the law of the land. What are your views on HB4?
Well, obviously, I think it's really unfortunate that DEI has become the latest. We had CRT, and now we're into DEI, and folks are just lobbing onto these things that are taking on a life of their own. And I'm hearing so many people say, I just want it to be equal for everyone. And I want to be like, well, that's DEI. You think that it's giving these people a leg up, but it came because these people had a leg up. So, I think the thing is it's a huge distraction. Let's be honest. For the most part, it is a huge distraction from the issues. Right now, There is absolute chaos happening in Washington, D.C. We are seeing departments being completely dismantled. We are seeing, hordes of federal employees losing their jobs, all under the guise of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, but actually doing away with entire departments and doing away with critical government employees that are supplying critical needs to Americans and Kentuckians is not the way that we go about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think that things like that are a distraction from those things. The tariffs are really hurting Kentuckians right now. It's hurting our signature industries. It's hurting our farmers. The USDA cuts there. We're going to see kids in our schools go hungry. And obviously, we know that our public schools are amazing and they're going to step up and be sure that those kids get fed. But then whatever money they have to use to do that means that there's something else that doesn't get covered. Social Security is being threatened. Medicaid, Medicare is being threatened. These are the real issues that Kentuckians are worried about. These are the things that when they lay their heads down at night, that is keeping them awake. These are the things that we need to be focused on. All of these other things are distractions, and we need to just realize that that's what they are and move on and not allow ourselves to be distracted, but to stay focused on the issues that really matter.
Yeah, it's so tricky, right? Because you're like, oh, why are they so obsessed about like DEI and trans rights? Like, we're not. we just wanted to make sure things are that there's a level playing field.
Yep.
And it's the other side that keeps bringing these things up.
Yeah.
We didn't bring up these bills, but yeah, we gotta talk about them because we gotta fight them because they're not, these are not our values as I thought as a nation, right? And
right. And I didn't either. And I think that what we have seen, unfortunately, is DEI has just been painted with this broad brush that in so many people's minds it equals race, but the three of us know that it is first generation students, the people who are the first in their families to go to college. It is scholarships for Appalachians to come out of poverty and get to go to school. It is ramps for wheelchairs. It is so much more than just boiling it down to race. It really does a disservice to all of those people that don't just fit in a neat little box. And we need to be sure that in creating a space for everyone, that we're doing all that we can to create that level playing field.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I kept thinking about this over the water protection bill and everything. Why didn't maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Common sense Republicans realize that the quality of the one product that Kentucky is known for besides KFC around the world, bourbon, is made with quality water. And if you screw with the water supply and make it a little less safe, you're going to dampen the quality of Kentucky bourbon and make it less drinkable and less desirable. And if you support these tariffs, you're going to freeze bourbon distillers out of those markets. What were they thinking?
They're not. I mean, they are operating in a very top-down fashion. And unfortunately, we see in Frankfort, especially, and that's what I can speak to, we don't see many of them get up and talk very often on the floor. They walk in, they know how everybody's going to vote, and they punch a button, and it just happens,
Wow.
I think that you all, and I think the general public, would be very disturbed to realize that there are some members of the supermajority that don't ever read a bill. They just are told how to vote, and that's how they vote on. And you can be sitting there and having conversations with them and say, hey, did you realize that this bill will do this, this, and this? And they're like, what? Like, they don't even know. They don't even know. They're being told how to vote, and that's how they're voting. So it's a huge problem. It's a really big problem. And Democrats have got to figure out a way to combat that. I hate that the environment is the way that it is right now. I hate that, Trump is in charge and we're just seeing all of these awful things roll out, that all of this chaos is coming down from Washington, and it's creating such a problem for our Kentucky families.
Right.
But with all of that being said, I think that there are a lot of people that are waking up and realizing that, their votes have consequences and that they're having some buyer's remorse on their Trump votes. And I think that next year is going to be a really great year for Democrats.
I hope so.
I really do. I think that, we're going to be seen as the adults in the room who are who care about people, who are trying to pay attention and listen to what they actually need and what they're asking for. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people thought that Donald Trump, because he just came out and he would just say whatever popped into his mind, that, they felt like he saw them and he heard them. But we know that that's not true. And so we need to take a page out of that book, though, and say, hey, we are listening. What are those things that are keeping you up at night? And that's one thing that allowed me to have the success that I had while I was in the legislature, being in a seat that was so competitive, cycle after cycle. It forced me to be out in the community, knocking on doors and talking to my constituents and really listening to the things that they had to say, and listen to what was going right for them, listen to what was going wrong for them, letting them share their hopes and dreams for their families and the things that are weighing on them. It makes you a better representative. And exactly what we are meant to do is in our title. We are meant to go represent our people. And unfortunately, we have one party right now that is there to represent their party, and they're not there to represent their people. And so we have got to get out and have those hard conversations with Kentuckians and make them realize that, that if they need things to change for themselves and their families, that voting blue is going to be the way to get that done.
That's right.
That's awesome. And so, what are you doing? Are you gonna run for the 6th district? Some people, you're in that article. You're mentioned in that article.
I know. I'm mentioned in the article a lot, and I have confirmed to the Herald Leader and the Courier Journal that I am seriously considering. Seriously considering having a lot of meetings about it. Talking to a lot of folks. So I'm on the phone. I'm on Zooms all day long. Trying to make a decision, and hopefully you'll hear something real soon.
Well, Cherlynn, if you need any type of foreign policy white papers or anything, hit me up.
Okay.
I'll be glad to help any way I can. Thank
you. I appreciate that.
And yeah, we endorsed you in your last race.
Yes.
And we think the 6th district is really important. We hosted a forum for the 6th district candidates for the primary. Yes. So we would love to invite you back if you're going to be, if it's a competitive primary and there are other folks running for it, because there are a lot of names in that article.
There are a lot of names out there. Yes, I understand that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. The biggest part.
That I am, because I've told you this a number of times. I tell our viewers all the time. I'm in for more democracy. I think the solution to voters being checked out, not paying attention, more races will give them more chances to hear about what's happening, hear different viewpoints. Obviously, what we did just lay out is that Representative Reverend Ryan Dotson and Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe, they voted to weaken water protections because the coal industry told them to. They voted to weaken protections for diversity, equity, and inclusion because they thought that would play well to their base and their party told them to. These are not people that are serious people that want to bring what's best to our Commonwealth. So that's why I do know we will not be endorsing those two. Those 2 votes alone make it very clear we will not be doing that. So thank you for jumping on, and good luck making your decision.
Thank you.
And feel free to ask me if you should, and I'll just say yes, you should.
Noted. That is noted. Thank you.
Awesome. And I hope we see you out on May Day on Thursday, next Thursday, May 1st. So big rally again, Courthouse Plaza.
All right. Great. Good to see you guys. Have a great night.
See you as well.
Thank you. All right. So such an important leader. She did such a great job in the state house. Did such an amazing amount of work communicating with her constituents. Just really the kind of representative you want. Not checked out, not just like driving up to Frankfort and doing their bit and like voting the way the party tells her to. Her constituent services. I was in the 88th district. I'm in the 88th district. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Every time I would call or write an email about a bill, mostly she'd say, well, I'm going to be in for this, right? Like her note cards back. Right. But she did that for all her constituents. I've got this new Representative Vanessa Grossel, who unfortunately beat Cherlynn in that race. I emailed, I called like daily about votes. Mm-hmm. Never heard anything back ever from that representative.
That's poor constituency service.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a call to action, and then we're gonna let folks go because it's been a nice show. Dr. Clardy, it's always a pleasure to chat with you about politics.
Hey, that's what I do. That's what I do. And I'm looking forward to being back in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. So we have our call to action today. It's about the SAVE Act. This is an issue at the federal level. It passed the House of Representatives. They call it the Save American Voter Eligibility Act, which sounds awesome. Who wouldn't be for that? Super dangerous attack on your freedom to vote. Requires documentary proof of citizenship to vote. Non-citizens can't vote. It's not been shown to be any sort of a real problem. It's not swaying elections. It's not a huge issue. But what this bill would do would put significant barriers to people's ability to vote, to get registered to vote, makes it far harder. And what happens is that millions can be wrongly kicked off voter rolls, and discriminatory laws like this disproportionately affect marginalized communities that already have issues voting. So this is a really bad bill. We've got a bit.ly link you can click on. Hopefully Annabel can put that in the chat. bit.ly save voting. So please do. This will send an email. As I mentioned, it passed the House of Representatives already. So you can use this link, send a message to Mitch and Rand, our senators, currently our senators, and urge them to vote against the SAVE Act. I don't think the SAVE Act is going to make it through because there's going to be a filibuster. But I think we definitely want Mitch and Rand to hear from you about this vote. So again, that is http bit.ly/SAVE-voting. That's what it is. So you can click on that and send your message. Please do it right now. It don't cost nothing. All right. Can you close out this wonderful episode, Dr. Clardy?
Aaron, I'd be glad to. Thank you for having me on tonight. Annabel, great job. Carma, Cherlynn, thank you all for being a part of this. And those of you who are in the audience and who will listen later on podcasts, thank you for being a part of this movement to make Kentucky and to make our country better and better and better. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, also known as CAVE. And we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Please join us next week for our 208th episode, where we'll be focusing on May Day and the state of the labor movement in a moment that the Republicans and the billionaires have never been more in alignment, and how we can leverage our power against them. Production of episode 307 was done by Annabel Nagel, back from her international forays and helping to bring you this show. Neil Orshon also wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, Audible podcasts and our show notes are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. We thank you so much for being a part of this movement. Good night and good luck.